Hey guys, what's up? How you doing? So this is the second part of my series on Valorant and some of the issues that I have it with, some of the things that I think need to be addressed and either buffed or nerfed or just generally changed to make the game that little bit better. I already went through my agent talent list, but the main purpose of that video was to discuss the balancing issues that I have with the game. And to credit Riot, to be fair, they have already made a couple of the changes that I talked about. I don't think my video has anything to do with those changes, but the day after I made the video, they did nerf Sage a little bit. I still think she's too powerful. I don't think they went far enough with that. But the changes to Raze I thought were absolutely spot on. They changed the grenades, as I said, to be more like Phoenix. So you didn't get the opportunity to buy two. You had to get 2 kills in order to replenish that grenade and effectively get a second one. But now we're going to be going through the maps. Now, I thought about doing all the maps together in just like a jumbo video, like a mega video, but it would have lasted hours. So instead, I'm just going to go through the maps individually, and I'm going to start with Split. Now, for me, this is the map that has the most problems. I thought I'd have the most issues with the 3-site map, and I'm not hugely a fan of that map, but I actually prefer that to this one because I think Split has some really, really big issues, which I'm going to go through today. And I'd love it if some of these got addressed. I don't think they will, but a man can hope. So I'm going as Sage just to try and show you some of the issues that I have with this. Let me just let this run through, actually, because it's going to do my head in if I keep seeing that buy phase at the top of the screen. So some of my main issues with this map. First, choke points. They are a big thing, not just on this map, but actually Valorant in total. But I think they're felt more on this than either of the other two. They're more egregious on this map. So you have A site, plenty of choke points. Middle, choke points. B, choke points. Now, whereas if they had one of these sites have these issues with their close-knit angles that were easy to lock off with smokes, easy to lock off with walls, easy to lock off with any of those things, I wouldn't really have much of an issue with it. But because it's everywhere on the map, you can't really escape them. Now, what I mean is, now I'm playing as Sage, and unfortunately right now the cheat system that's implemented into the game, which you can do through here, by the way, if you want to go in and just have a look around maps and try and learn them a little bit more, doesn't allow you to no-clip or change agents, to my knowledge, so it's a bit of a nuisance, but I'm going to go through this, just bear with me. So the first main choke point is here, which you can smoke down fairly easily. You can put a wall down there. You can maybe throw a slow orb. Second one is here, and then you have the ramp and also the entrance to the site. So there's so many different ways that the defenders can pop down utility, they can pop down abilities to just really stall off the attack coming through. And the defenders will get here before the attackers do. So you can either just Sage wall down, you can throw orbs, but I actually think Sage is busted in middle, and that's where I'm going to really be talking about her the most. But just imagine there's smokes here, just imagine there's Molotovs and everything else. It's just brutal. Like, the attackers, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Nuke on T side, like the old Nuke. Now, I realize the maps are fundamentally different, but what I mean is the thought process. What I mean is the mindset of being on attack on Nuke, where you're basically just sat there on attack and you feel claustrophobic, you feel shut down, you feel like you're being oppressed to a degree, and there's no real easy way to get on any site. Like, there's no area where you can push without maybe a weakness being in the enemy team. Now, that's all perfectly fine if you want to make a map more defense-sided. I have no problem with that. My issue is that if you're doing it in cheap ways by just having a bunch of close angles that are almost impossible to push through, and every single character has tons of utility at their disposal that you can just stack on top of each other, that's where the issues come in for me. That's where the problems come in for me. So the fact that this is on both sides of the map is really, really worrying, and I hope it does get changed. Second issue with the map, I actually have no problem with any of this. I think this is pretty well designed. The site, I think, is pretty well designed overall. The zip lines. What's the point? What's the point in the zip lines, guys? I just don't get it. I understand that you might want unique sort of gimmicks on each of the maps, and it so happens that zip lines are the one for Split, but they just don't really add anything. If anything, they just frustrate me more than anything else, because you get into this really irritating stage where people hide on the zip lines. They use them as these wrap positions. And the other issue is that while you're on the zip lines, yes, the accuracy is hit a little bit, but nowhere near enough. You can still hit headshots on these zip lines, and I have been headshotted plenty of times. The pistol's even more accurate than the rifles are, which makes sense, but the rifles are still far too powerful. Now, if you compare this, and again, I don't want to just make all these comparisons to Counter-Strike, but it's the obvious one for me as a CS commentator, as someone that's put thousands upon thousands of hours into CS, that the ladders for me are perfect in CS. You can't use the ladders in ridiculously powerful ways. When you're on a ladder, you are vulnerable. You are susceptible to getting killed. You don't get much accuracy. If you're point blank range, sure, maybe you do land a shot. Hell, even at medium range, if you're really lucky, sometimes it might happen. But the accuracy is not there. And so ladders actually are a burden. You have to worry when you're going up a ladder. Zip lines just act as this really annoying nuisance on both sides. But also, because of the zip lines, I felt like they tried to crowbar an area of the map where zip lines are very much unavoidable. And it's this drop-down room. This drop-down room is garbage. It's so bad. I don't understand the purpose at all. It's just bad on both sides. Like, sure, you can use these boxes to peek through middle. It can be a bit of an interesting position. But honestly, this drop room is terrible. They just need to remove it, in my opinion. And what I would do instead is extend out this room, just like raise up the drop down so it comes up here. Maybe have an extra box or something. I'm fine with that. But extend this out all the way through into the A rafters up here. Have it so it's a bigger room. Have it so that you can actually see all the way across, and it makes this angle that much more deadly and dangerous if middle is taken control of. Make this something that people fight over, not this shitty drop down area, man. It's so bad. I just feel like it hurts split so much, and without that room, I would actually prefer this map maybe to the 3-site map. That's just how much I dislike this little area here. It's garbage. Middle, by and large, is pretty good. But my issue is, and the reason I'm playing a Sage right now, is it's so easy with Sage to hold this alone. Sage or Brimstone. Brimstone can pop a smoke here, smoke there, Molotov in middle, and he pretty much just holds mid alone. Obviously, you could be against characters like Jett. You can be against characters that are going to get aggressive and up in your face through the smokes. So you do want to be playing 2 people in middle at minimum. I actually think because of the 2 choke points on both sides, and I will get to B in a moment, you can probably even play 3 middle to start off with and just have one of those as a B defender that plays like the heaven area on B. But Sage, orb, locks down middle. Now that second orb's not ideal, actually. You like it a bit further back. But orb, locks down middle to start off with. They don't last forever, but it stops the initial push, which is so big. And if you combine that with smokes, you combine that with her wall, she can hold middle for so long. So let's just say that you've put the 2 orbs down and no one's pushed. You can either put a wall there, or you can put a wall here, and that's going to lock down. Now, if you stand on top of the wall while you go up, you can actually just hold the angle from here instead, which is ridiculous, and then just peek now and again to have a look. So Sage absolutely breaks this map in middle, almost single-handedly. She can just hold this forever. And this is so much time as well that the attacker worried about being pushed or pincered from other angles. So for me, the map needs a couple of tweaks. I'm fine with middle being this way with Sage. Again, I'd like to see Sage nerfed a little bit more. But I'm fine with this being the case in middle. A couple changes I would make, though, would be to extend this wall out, to actually take this wall back to here, which would stop this angle from being a thing, which is a real pain in the ass when you combine it with heaven. When you come up here as the attackers, there's 3 different angles you have to watch out for, which is so unreasonable. And it feels so difficult to actually gain ground. Even within the space of mid, you can have a player on this side of the door, this side of the door. We've already talked about that box, on one of these zip lines. It's just too much, guys. There's too many angles that you have to watch out for as you push up middle, and it can feel very scary when you're on the attack side. You just don't know where people are. So extend this wall out, to here, I'm fine with that box being there. And then I would say extend this door a little bit more. Either bring it all the way out to this side or extend it maybe to here. Have it from there to there. So it's like this open area instead where one smoke can't completely lock it down. There'll be a slight gap in it. Other than if it's Omen, who I think gets a little bit more radius on his smokes, which will make Omen a little bit more powerful. Right now I feel like he's towards the bottom tier, which I've already talked about in my video. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. So I think extending this door a little bit further would be ideal, especially if you combine it with raising this platform up and getting rid of this drop down area to actually have more engagements around mid. It would put more pressure on the defenders. Apart from that, though, I think middle's pretty solid. I like these little frogs we can play aggressively and use a different angle on the defense. I like these boxes. If anything, you could maybe extend the box a tiny bit more if you get rid of this wall and you extend the doors. I think that would be pretty solid. Now let's talk about the B side. I have no issue with this area either. I have no issue with this area. The B side, though, falls into the same problems as A, and it's the choke point. So you'll notice that with A, as I showed you before, you had the initial choke point, then you had the secondary choke point, then you had two more. Now, this side doesn't have as many concerns in that regard, as you only have one, and the attackers get here very quickly. But this is so grim. Like, look how narrow this corridor is. It's so rough. Now, the defenders can get up to this point. This is as far as they can run. And the attackers get to this point here. So the defenders will be peaking roughly the same time as the attackers. They might get here slightly beforehand, depending. But this garage makes Breach an absolute baller. He can flash through these walls, he can breach charge through these walls, and he can also stun you with his E through those walls. And if you want to play aggressively, by the way, he can just ultimate through them. And the ult is not just going to hit this area, it's actually also going to extend into this area too. Slightly. So, Breach's ult makes B almost a nightmare, and I think Breach is kind of a must-have on split alongside Brimstone and also Sage, because they're all just way too powerful. But in terms of this narrow area, Slow Orb covers it all, and then some. Obviously, her wall is just going to lock it down for days. You have smokes that can completely lock this off. Even jet smokes completely cover this. And you can just chain CC it. When you come through onto the site, though, this is where the nightmare really begins, because you're never really going to be able to rush this site. Even in eco rounds, which the economy of this game is kind of a little bit busted, and I want to see it change for ranked, you don't really ever have to fully eco, and abilities are so cheap, you're always going to be able to buy them, which means you're always going to be able to throw down this area of effect, these walls and smokes, etc. But even when you do finally push through the smokes and the walls with maybe 40, 30, 20 seconds left, there's so many angles to watch out for. And this is why Brimstone is so powerful. Smoke, 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 really needed. Viper also can put her wall all the way across here and look to push. But these boxes, man, these boxes have got to go. They're garbage. These boxes are absolute garbage. I'm not a fan of them at all. I think it just makes it B-site far too unreasonable when trying to push through. It feels so dodgy because every single time you push through here, not only are you looking at these boxes, people can jump on top of here as well. They can hide behind here. Sure, this is basically like paper thin, so you can get sprayed down. You can have people playing off angles up here with maybe the operator, just watching for the push. People often will hide on this side of the wall as well with an operator. Then you have all the rafters in the heaven area. You have this little angle as well that people can watch from. Like, there's too many issues coming through onto B after being locked down for what will feel like an eternity to push through onto. And some of these things need to go. First off, I'd like to see the garage entrance extended, probably to like here. Maybe to this doorway, but I'd say at least to here. And maybe if you're going to extend it that far, put a box down. Put some kind of an area that people can hide behind and gradually work their way up. Don't just make it this narrow. This is way too broken. So extend the wall minimum of this far. Or, of course, the other side you could do it is you could extend the garage out and just extend the wall here and get rid of these boxes. And if you want to put a box, put it on this side. Because when you come through and peek, it would mean that you're looking at that box, but also heaven at the same time. Rather than having to come through. Like, this is the life of someone attacking B right now. Oh, God. Which way do I look? Up here, can get shot from heaven. Look at heaven, can get shot from the boxes. Look at the boxes, can get shot from the back of the site. Here, up there on this side as well. Like, there's so many angles that you can be shot from. And I get it. You're going to have utility, but you might have already expended that just to get to this point. You know? If the defenders have chained their utility correctly, you're going to be in for a nightmare. You're going to be in for a world of hurt coming through onto B. So, either extend, get rid of those boxes, whatever happens. I'm fine with keeping this zip line. Look, if you're desperate for zip lines, if that has to be the gimmick in this map, you can keep these ones, and you can keep the ones that are over here as well, that you can climb up through the sewer. Fine. Just get rid of the drop down area, the vents. Please get rid of those. But I'm fine with this zip line. It's not really that much of a concern for me. So I've breezed over that to try and keep this somewhat reasonable in terms of a time frame and not bore you all to death. But for me, Split right now is the weakest map, and it's because of the issues that I've discussed. I do think, though, that underneath a lot of the garbage on this map, there is actually a potential gem. There is actually something interesting on this. But it's going to need a lot of fine-tuning, and it's going to need quite a few changes in order to facilitate it being a really solid map that I enjoy playing. Because right now, every time I play this map, and for some reason it feels like this is the only map I ever play, every time I play this map, I'm just not enjoying it. I just mentally check out. And I will get into the topic of going forward what I think Valorant needs to do overall with its future like turnaround in terms of maps and agents. But when there's 3 maps and when rank does release, if you can't somehow get rid of this, if you can't veto this map to rank and you have to play it, it's actually going to turn me off playing ranked, and it's actually going to turn me off playing the game, because maps are the core, they are the lifeblood of FPS games. Without solid maps, without a solid map pool, the game will not live for very long. So those are my thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Comment below, let me know. And I will be getting on to the next map of Bind, and that will be coming out very shortly. I'll probably release all these videos on the same day, so if you want to binge watch them, you can. But I'm not going to put them all together, because then the video would maybe be like an hour plus long, and that's just too long. So anyway, thank you guys for your time. The series will continue. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.